me coming out, and I just have to live, and I wanna give. I'm completely positive. I think this time around I am gonna do it like you never knew it. Oh, I'll make it through. The time has come for me to break out of the shell. I have to shout that I am coming out.
Welcome to the show Never Too Late Ever, where we focus on making the next chapter of your life the very best chapter ever. I am your host, Lorraine Hoving, and I'm here from It's About Time. I am so glad that you are joining us this very day. This day could change your life. Open your heart, your ears, and listen, and you may find a gem, a treasure that you can apply to your life today. Well, I am so excited to have my next guest here. Her name is Jen Beck. Hi, Jen. How are you today?
Hey, Lorraine. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Hey, it's great to talk to you. So let me tell you a little bit about Jen. As a registered nutrition consultant, speaker, author, and founder of Complete Health Revolution, Jen Beck blows the lid off healthy living myths that keep you stuck on the diet and exercise roller coaster. We've all been there. She turbocharges your transformation with real strategies focused on your bio-individuality that work for creating permanent, lasting weight loss and energy gain without gimmicks, tricks, or fad. She lives in Cincinnati, Ohio, with her young daughter and their lovable dog, Bella. Hey, my first important question to you is, what kind of dog is Bella? I love dogs.
And she's the sweetest. She's a black lab and whippet mix.
Oh, wonderful. Sweet disposition?
She is absolutely just a lover. And it's funny, she used to be more of a people person, or more of a dog, and now she's more of a people dog.
Cute.
So her personality changed. She's almost 11. So
11.
Yeah.
Older. Yeah. My dog's personality changed a little bit when he got older too. He was very independent, and then suddenly he was cuddly in his last few years. So finally I got the cuddle bug I wanted.
That's great.
Well, wonderful. Happy to have you. Tell us a little about your life and about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I was born in Nebraska, lived there till I was 10, grew up in Minnesota. So I still have a little bit of the accent. Yeah, you betcha. And I went to school in Minnesota. I lived there, and then I was going to school for business and communications. And my mom had multiple sclerosis my entire life. And when I was 26, she went through a series of relapses where she went from living on her own to being in a nursing home in about 6 weeks. And that, Lorraine, that was a massive wake-up call on so many levels.
Wow.
You know, she'd had MS my entire life, but had been on all the preventative medications to make sure that major relapses like that didn't happen. And here we are. She's 49 years old, and we had to put her in a nursing home.
Oh.
And, you know, I will never forget that afternoon standing in her living room with her, sorting through every one of her possessions, going, okay, do you want to take it to the nursing home, storage, donate, or garbage? And watching her go through her entire, like everything she owned, all of her independence, everything in one afternoon, just gone.
Heartbreaking. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. And it was crazy. I mean, for me, two things became real in that moment. One, I had to do something to be able to help her, because obviously the medications weren't working. I needed to take care of myself, because at that point I was living on sugar, caffeine, and, you know, fast food.
And how old were you? How old were you, Jen? Yeah. How old were you at this time?
I was 26.
20. So you were 26. Young. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Experience this. Wow.
Yeah. And I remember just that day. And so I started looking at alternative health or alternative medicine. and ended up at a conference that was being taught by a pharmacist. Now, this pharmacist was talking about superfoods, which I thought was a little ironic that, a pharmacist is talking about food instead of drugs. But what was even more interesting is his wife had MS for 26 years, just like my mom.
Mm-hmm.
The only issue she had, though, is when she walked across the ballroom, she had to hold his arm for stability. My mom had been walking with a cane since I was probably 4 or 5.
Wow.
And had, moved on to a walker and things like that. And I got a chance to meet her afterwards, and I said, what did you do to manage your MS? What drugs are you on? Because I need to get my mom on those because your results are so much better than hers. And she goes, I didn't take any drugs. I'm like, what? Your husband's a pharmacist. She goes, yeah, but he didn't believe in any of the meds because the side effects were too great, the population studies were too short, and then they were too small. So I just built my body up with diet, supplements, and exercise. And I went, And I started thinking about my mom's lifestyle, which were none of those things, right? I mean, we had balanced meals as kids. It was a can of green beans, a can of cream corn, instant potatoes, and Salisbury steak out of the freezer. Typical Midwest meal for the 80s. Balanced but not necessarily nutritionally dense. Took supplements for like 6 months when I was in 6th grade and said they're too expensive, they don't work, I'm not doing it. And I don't remember her ever doing any kind of exercise at all, other than like physical therapy after a minor relapse. So it got me thinking, like, what if my mom had done what Dr. Stutzer's wife had done? Would her results be any different? And I just launched into researching nutrition, and I saw people reversing MS and heart disease and cancer and diabetes and fibromyalgia and, all of these diseases that I thought were a life sentence.
Right.
Now people are healing from them.
Yes.
And that's what prompted me to go get a certification in nutrition. And I'll be honest, I mean, it put me on a mission for the last 20 years to try and make sure that no other family has to put a parent in a nursing home at 49 years old unnecessarily. So that's kind of how I got into what I've been doing for the last, I've been in nutrition for 20 years. I worked the first probably 9 years with a nutrition company. I lived in 7 states in 5 years doing a lot of education and training for them. And then I moved to Cincinnati in 2006 to open up a wellness center here. And then left that company about 2.5 years after that because I saw such a need for people getting real information versus like, oh, here, do this plan or do this diet or do this, and not having it work. And they just jump from one plan to the next, to the next, to the next, and still staying in that stupid diet cycle based on partial or false information.
Right. Now, can I back the trap up a little bit? What can you tell us in the end what happened with your mom? Yeah.
So my mom passed away about 6 years ago. She was about 2.5 weeks shy of her 65th birthday.
Okay.
She was in a nursing home for 5 years.
Okay.
We didn't have any control over her nutrition at all at that point. I mean, they gave her a Centrum and a vitamin C, and that was it. And she was eating like 3 bowls of that instant oatmeal or 3 bowls of flavored yogurt. I mean, some massive sugar, tons of inflammation, and had urinary tract infections every other month. Had started losing bowel function. I mean, all kinds of decline in that nursing home.
Right.
5 years in, we got her into a group home. And in that group home, I had control over what she ate. She had full-time aides and stuff like that, so we could really influence what she got nutritionally. And then I was also able to slip her some supplements. She was a little resistant in the beginning based on her previous experience. So I got some liquid supplements, and I just had the nursing staff start slipping them into her cranberry juice that she was doing. And she started improving in her cognition a little bit. She regained some bowel function, and she had gone from 1 urinary tract infection every other month to 1 every other year or 2.
Wow.
Just from some of the simple changes that we made. Her last set of relapses really took a toll on her, but her nurses and doctors and stuff still said that we prolonged and improved the quality of her life for at least 5, if not 10 years, compared to if she would have stayed in that nursing home when she came in.
Wow. Now, see, Jen, that's amazing, because it was worth all of that to regain if it was 5 to 10 years, and the quality of those years for your mother, was greatly enhanced. So, I mean, it's a sad story, but it's a story where you've learned something. And because of that, you've studied that, and now you can help others. So that's, What do you see as one of the biggest problems with America's health today? Is it nutrition? What do you see as the biggest problem?
Well, I think that the biggest problem is that we are just eating food like substances a lot of cases. The USDA says that the average, like less than 9% of the population eats a dark leafy green on a daily basis.
Yeah, less than 9%. Wow.
Most people's most people's vegetables are potatoes or tomatoes. This is according to our government. 50% is from potatoes in the form of French fries, potato chips, or baked potatoes. And then 25% is tomatoes in the form of pizza sauce, ketchup, and spaghetti sauce.
Yeah.
The crazy thing, neither one of those are vegetables. So we are so far adrift when it comes to what real nutrition and real food looks like, not to mention the standard American diet, not to mention the amount of conflicting and confusing information coming out from the USDA and food manufacturers, and then every diet plan under the sun.
Right.
And none of it looks at the individual, right? I mean, everything I do is really based on where the individual is at, where their health is at, and what's best for their body. Because if you're eating something, I mean, I don't know, have you ever been on a diet before?
Yeah, because my story is that I've lost like 130 pounds. So I've been on every diet known to man. Most of my weight that I've lost is on Weight Watchers, but that's because it teaches more lifestyle. So that's kind of my story. But I've been on and off everything imaginable in between those times.
Yeah. Right. And have you ever been on a diet and it works for you, but not for a friend, or vice versa?
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of that's because we're not doing what our bodies need. And a lot of times we're just like, a lot of people are just getting handed a plan and go, here, go eat like this. And then they don't understand why. They don't understand the how. And so they'll do it for a while, and then they stop because they either have reached their goal and they go, whew, I don't have to do that anymore. And they go back to what they were doing before. Or B, they get so frustrated that they're not getting results, and so they quit and they jump to the next one.
Right.
So there's just so much confusion around nutrition, and none of it is being taught around the individual.
Right.
So people really don't know what they should be doing, and that's a big part of what I help women do.
Yeah. Now, have you yourself suffered with being overweight or had a problem with excess weight?
Yeah, I did. I probably carried an extra 20 pounds, 15 or 20 pounds through my early 20s, especially when I was living on sugar and caffeine. I remember, there were so many diets that I tried. There was the 500-calorie diet that came out from Mayo Clinic, which is like, and a hard-boiled egg, a piece of toast, and a cup of coffee.
Yes,
right?
I remember.
Yeah, right? Or like I ate carrots and cottage cheese every day for a year for lunch because it was low calorie and low fat. I mean, like, it's crazy stuff.
Right.
Did Weight Watchers for a little bit. Nothing really, all the crazy stuff, and nothing really worked other than creating lasting habits and creating true habit change.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I get that, because that's what I had to do, is change my daily habits so that it was more of a lifestyle rather than, I can go on a diet, but when I go off, I live like hell, eating everything in sight. So I could always do that. I could be strict as strict as, I was so legalistic when I was on a diet, like those cabbage diets and all those, or the 500 calories. I've been on them all, or the grapefruit diet. But when I was off it, then I was off it. So what helped me was to be it's more of a lifestyle. And then I think what you're saying too is the choice of the calories that we intake, the quality of our choices is so important. So talk to talk to us about the nutrition. You were starting to talk about